Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you might be in this fine world. You are listening to the Startup Selling Show, talking sales with Scott Sambucci. That's me. It is another edition of our Go Farther podcast series. And I'm taking a second little deviation. Last week, I replayed and reposted an episode from Dan Waldschmidt that I had done a couple of years ago. This week, I am traveling, big time travel across the Atlantic. I'm over in London right now. Lucky me. I have one of my primary clients right now is based in London and came out here in January for about 4 days. And this week traveled out here again to work with the team out here, which has been a lot of fun, but it's travel across the world, which leads to a whole bunch of different ways to think about my routine. In this episode, I thought it might be a good idea rather than dive into another lesson or another specific episode like the ones we've been doing. As I've been traveling, I was just taking some notes, some things that I find tend to work pretty well for me when it comes to managing my time, managing myself, managing how I eat, how I exercise, those kinds of things. Some of these tips, some of these tricks might be ones you've heard before. Maybe there's some variations of ones you've heard before. And even if you've heard them before and you're not doing them, then might be, in that sense, new information. So I wrote down 10 specific tips, tricks, hacks, whatever you want to call them, that have helped me to make make of the best. This is the jet lag. I can't even speak. 4 hours of sleep last night, by the way. It's 3:56 in the morning London time that I recorded this. I've already been awake for 90 minutes. I only slept for about 4 hours last night. I did my best after taking a red eye on Sunday from SFO. Red eye left at 4 p.m. afternoon, arrived in London around 10 in the morning. So I slept about, if you want to call it sleep, about 5 hours on the plane, pretty restless. I did have a whole row to myself, which that was a huge bonus, but it doesn't mean that I slept very well. And then powered through the day, went right to the office, got to the office around 12:30, worked throughout the rest of the afternoon into the early evening, came back, checked into my hotel, exercised, did some dinner. And regardless of the lack of sleep on the plane and trying to stay up as late as I could last night, still only got 4 hours of sleep, was wide awake at 2:30. So all of that being said, my brain's a little mushy. It kind of feels like I've had like the competency after about drinking 3 or 4 beers. Lack of sleep has been directly, in terms of your behavior and your mindset, your ability to think, has been likened to being inebriated. So lack of sleep is what I'm feeling right now. So any further ado, let's get into 10 specific travel tips. I've got them broken into 3 parts here. One is how to handle time, so to speak, hotel time, jet lag, time in between meetings, all those kinds of things. Then I've got a couple of tips around exercise, and then a few tips around food and nutrition and what I do to try to keep myself square when I am traveling. The first and foremost, number one, is the gift of time. The gift of time. So right now I am exploring and utilizing this gift of time because, I woke up 2:30 in the morning, wide awake. I could just tell I wasn't going to get back to sleep. So on the one hand, I could toss and turn and be frustrated about my lack of sleep, like of the ability to get to sleep. But one thing I've done over the years is, whether I'm traveling or just I'm at home, and occasionally I'll wake up really early, middle of the night, and I can't get back to sleep. One of the things I've trained myself to do is just get up and get stuff done. So get to the office, start my morning routine as if it was 4 or 5 in the morning, even if it's only 2 or 2:30, have some coffee, go to the office, start getting work done. And this concept of gift of time is something my wife introduced me to. She first heard it from Ariana Huffington from Huffington Post. And this idea is like, when things don't go the way you expect them to do, the way you expect them to go, you have a travel delay. Your train is late. You're stuck on a train. In my case, it's jet lag and being awake at 2:30 in the morning. Instead of being frustrated about those situations, try to turn it into a more positive mindset and say, well, I've got this gift of time. I remember years ago when I used to travel from Davis down to Mountain View when I worked with Altos Research, I would take the Amtrak Capital Corridor, and a 2.5 hour train ride from Davis down to San Jose. And then in San Jose, I'd pick up the Caltrain. And I would go down there for a few nights at a time, like leave on a Monday, come back on a Thursday. And I remember there were a few occasions where on the train, especially on the way home, when I'm just ready to get back after a few days down in Mountain View, in the evenings, there would be train delays. Sometimes it would be a jumper on the track, or sometimes it would be a mechanical issue or track congestion. And when the train would stop, sometimes on the rails for an hour or two or longer, especially if it was a jumper or some kind of police activity, you're just stuck on this train. You can't get off. And that's where, kind of click in and say, okay, I've got this gift of time. What can I do with it? Maybe it's take a nap. Maybe it's get some more work done and tie up loose ends. Whatever it is, just use that gift of time. So whenever I'm away, I would think about like, how can I use that time away as much as possible? Because when I'm away, I'm not at home to help my wife with things that has to be managed at home. I'm not there with my son, hanging out with him, taking him to school, making him breakfast, doing all those things. I always feel like I owe it to myself and I owe it to them to maximize the time that I've got available. So rather than, wake up early and watch TV or be bored or frustrated, I will use as much of these time blocks that are available to me to get stuff done. And sometimes those tasks might be just a bunch of menial tasks where if I'm stuck on a train at night, or in this case this morning where my brain isn't fully functioning, it might not be that I'm doing the hard, heavy, deep work, but I have expenses that need to get done, financial management stuff with the company. I've got some tasks that are related to client work around things like job descriptions and roles and responsibilities that are just things that take time, but don't require a huge amount of deep work. I've got to do, actually, for this client, I'm supposed to be doing security training as part of the consulting contract. And I've been putting that off for a couple of months now. So it's like 90 minutes of time where I can just go and do that and just use this time and treat it like the gift of time. So that's number one, is just, when you have these time blocks, whether you're jet lagged or you've got delays in the airport or whatever it is, while it's frustrating in the moment, try to think about, well, what can I use this time for? And it could be a nap. It could be listening to a podcast. It could be catching up on menial tasks. It could be, sometimes it could just be like texting some friends or giving people a call that you haven't talked to in a while. Sometimes I'll go through my friends and just start texting a few folks like, hey, what's going on? Sorry, I haven't talked in a while. Haven't seen you. Or my friend Kelly, where we do a lot of running training together. I might just like hit him up like, hey man, I'm in the airport. I was just thinking ahead to next weekend. You're around for a trail run. And just try to use that time effectively. So that's number one. Number two is, in terms of thinking about your time, I think it's really important to schedule some blocks of time in the day to take a break. And for me today, that means I'm going to schedule time to take a nap, because while I've got plenty of energy and I know how to kind of power through from 2:30 in the morning all the way till 10 or 11 o'clock at night, that's not optimal for me, and it's certainly not optimal for the people around me. And so, I know I'm going to get, after this podcast, I'm going to go out, go for a run first thing in the morning, get that done, get my exercise done. And there's a couple of time blocks that I know are available, even though I'm spending the whole day, the next couple of days in the office. There are a couple of blocks, and I'm going to be unashamed about saying like, look, I got to go grab 45 minutes, go down to the office lobby or find a couch or do whatever and just grab a power nap. So for you, if you're traveling, maybe, you're driving, I used to travel to places like Dallas or Chicago or DC or New York, and you'd have multiple meetings at different locations. There's certainly, I've found, as best as I can, I try to stack up those meetings. But on the other hand, I've always found that, sometimes there's a little lull in the day. And on the one hand, I could jump into a coffee shop and try to get some work done. And sometimes I have to do those things in order to keep pace. On the other hand, maybe it's just, finding a park or driving your rental car to, a little neighborhood and just grabbing a 20-minute power nap in your car in the parking lot that you might be at, get to a meeting a little bit early, or after a meeting, if you've got some time before the next one, just grab those 20 minutes, because I think it will definitely give you a fresh mindset for the rest of the day. It will help you catch up on sleep that you might have missed because of jet lag. And for the most part, it's just going to make your day better. So I grab power naps during the day in my office, because I do get up, and when I'm at home, I do get up pretty early. I get up at 4 a.m. And so by noon, I've been awake for 8 hours. And, between phone calls, work, writing, recording podcasts, in between all that, taking my son to school, making him breakfast, those kinds of things. Sometimes by noon or 1 o'clock, like, I'm pretty brain dead. That's where I'll schedule in the middle of the day some exercise, go for a run, do a garage workout. And after that, because my body's relaxed, my brain's still a little turned off, I'll just grab 20 minutes on the office floor for a 20-minute nap, and it just helps refresh me. So you can do the same when you're traveling, and I think you should do the same when you're traveling to make sure you stay fresh and overcome some of that jet lag. The third tip is don't overschedule. For me, I know myself, like I try to jam as much as I can into the day. And certainly if you're traveling, if you're at a conference and you've got all day, from 7 in the morning till 6 in the evening, like, yeah, I definitely want to fill that dance card as much as possible. I've also found that there are times where I try to maintain some regular meetings I might have with home office. Like if I've got a daily stand up that we do with Serena, my assistant, when I'm traveling, we're just like, look, we're going to skip the synchronous stand up because as much as I might be able to go find 15 minutes and carve out, time in the hotel lobby, let's just skip that. We'll do it asynchronously. We'll just pick things up when I get back. Or if I have a regularly scheduled client call. So we have client calls every month in the coaching program where we do a monthly sprint planning session, which is basically like in the month going forward, what are the big things ahead of you? What are some things you need to accomplish? What are some help that you're going to need from me and the rest of the team here? There are times where I'll try to maintain some of that schedule and say, look, it's the first week of the month. This is when we do our client meetings. If I'm also traveling during that first week, then I will have Serena either try to move those up. So we do them in the last week of the prior month, or move them to the week after. And that's as much for me, but it's also for the clients. I want the clients to have my full attention. And I want to let them know, like, look, I'm going to be at this conference, but it might be noisy. It might be difficult to find the time and the focus. So let's just move this to the week before, the week after, so that I can give you all the attention you need. And in the meantime, then here's some things you might be able to work on. This also counts, like, don't overschedule. I've been guilty of this where I'll say, look, I'm traveling. My first meeting may not be until 9 in the morning. I get up early and I might try to jam a couple of meetings into the morning from my hotel room. Or when I get back, like I'm in London right now, evening here is daytime back in the States. And there are times where I'm like, okay, I'm going to get up. I'm going to do the full day. I'm going to get back to the hotel at 7 o'clock. And then I'm going to try to do a client meeting or two at 7 o'clock or 8 o'clock at night, because back on the West Coast, it's noon or 1 o'clock, or back in the States, it's like midday. What I found, as much as I have that ambition, there are times where things run late with the client meetings and the client work that we're doing. Sometimes at the end of the day, I'm just fried. I might be hungry because I might have skipped lunch. I might not have gotten the exercise in the morning, or I just feel like I need some oxygen. I need to get out and go for a walk. And if I'm going right from spending all day at a conference or all day with the client in their office and then trying to rush back to the hotel to jump on a Zoom or a second Zoom, it's just not a great situation in order to give myself the ability to provide the service that other clients deserve. So in that sense, I try to keep those evenings open. For example, I'm more prone to do this in the morning where I'm fresher and I can knock out some stuff and then start my meetings at 9 o'clock. But I think one of the ways you can help yourself to do more, be happy, surprise yourself, the idea of go farther, is just to avoid over scheduling. And I think that the people around you will be understanding. And I think it's going to be better for you and better for them. All right, those are my first three. So number one, gift of time. Number two, schedule a nap, schedule a break. And number three, don't overschedule yourself and over the number of meetings that you're trying to accomplish when you're traveling. Hey, quick break here. Thanks so much for listening to this and all of the episodes here in the Go Further series here on the Startup Selling Show, Talking Sales with Scott Sambucci. As always, please listen to this and please take action right now. Number one, I would love for you to leave a review in your podcast player. So while you're listening to this, if you're out walking the dog, or maybe you're traveling yourself, sitting in a hotel gate or in an Uber, or just walking from one meeting to the next, I would love it if you just leave us a review on your podcast player and rate the show. It's one of the ways that the podcast players will recommend our show to other people just like you. Number two, forward this over to a friend or 10. If you listen to this episode and you're really liking it, just click that share button and send a text, send an email, just share with a friend or 10. Viral is still the number one way for us to get the word out about the show. And number three, would absolutely love it if you are already not subscribed. So maybe this was forwarded to you, or maybe you caught this episode from the Sales Quality blog or from LinkedIn or some other way. If you're not already following the show, please do follow this show. So follow the show, forward to a friend or 10, and please leave us a review and rate the show on your podcast player. That's it for the little break. Let's head back to the rest of this episode. So the next three that I want to talk about here is exercise and self-care. Exercise and self-care. So number one, my rule is exercise every day. Been doing that throughout the course of this calendar year. I've made it a point to exercise every single day. In fact, the other day, I literally got a 9-minute workout, and that's all I could fit into that day because of a series of meetings and then some travel and then some other things. But I got 9 minutes in. And I think it's the same when you're traveling, especially when you're traveling, especially when you're changing time zones. I think the importance of exercising is so high that I always make sure I never skip. Now, that being said, there are some days when you're traveling, it can be very, very difficult to get in some exercise. Like for me on Sunday, got to the airport, 4 p.m., overnight flight, and then getting into London, middle of the day, right to the office. And then by the time I finished the workday, I'm back here and it's 7 o'clock in the hotel room. And now I'm sitting here like pretty beat, pretty tired. But those are exactly the reasons where I notice myself and say, this is exactly why I need to exercise. So for me last night, it was basically just gearing up and going for 5. I was planning to do 3 miles, like literally just 3 slow running miles through London, just to get myself moving, just to get some oxygen flowing through my brain, some endorphins, also to help my body kind of reset a little bit after the long travel and the long day. But that in itself was kind of lucky that I had that time. There's a lot of times where you don't have the ability to do that. Or in my case, it's coming on the summer in London, so it's light until 9 or 9:30. So it's easy to get out at 7:30, 8 o'clock and go knock out 3, 4, 5 miles. I ended up doing 5 altogether, 5 very slow miles, but I did get out. Now, there's other things you could do in your hotel room. I've got a series of different little workouts that I've done. And again, they're literally sometimes 9 minutes, 15 minutes max. And some things you can do are body weight exercises. Now, again, like as I've mentioned before, I am not a medical professional. So here's my official legal disclaimer, check with your doctor before partaking in any kind of exercise routine that might be new to you. That said, I mean, there's a bunch of easy body weight exercises that you can do. I mean, those include push-ups and sit-ups, the most basic. And even if you tell yourself like, well, I'm not the kind of person that does a lot of push-ups or sit-ups, or I can't do a lot of push-ups or sit-ups. Well, that's fine. Do sets of 3. Do 10 sets of 3 push-ups or 10 sets of 5 push-ups. If you have to do push-ups from your knees, fine. Who cares, right? You can do push-ups against a wall if you're literally just starting out. These are some of the things that personal trainers will do just to get people starting to do that push-up motion. They all count. It all counts. You don't have to do, sets of 50 strict push-ups military style for it to count. Whatever the resistance is for you that gets your heart rate working and helps move your muscles a little bit, that's all that matters. The same with sit-ups. You're like, cool, I can only do 10 sit-ups or 10 crunches at a time. Fine. Do 10, take a 30-second break. Do 10 more, take a 30-second break. So you can get to 50 or 100. You can do planks. Those are just, your arms forward in that straight position. You can do what are called mountain climbers, where you're just like knees to chest. You've got your hands on the ground, feet on the ground, knees to chest, back and forth. Those are good both for your core, but they're also really good for cardio because you'll find you're going to probably be breathing pretty heavy. I find that I do. They're actually good cardio exercises when I'm in the hotel room. Air squats, literally just doing squats without any weights. You do what are called Supermans, where you lay on your belly and lift your arms and legs off the ground for, it could be a period of 5 seconds or 10 seconds at a time. You can do jumping squats. You just think about yourself as like a frog, just jumping up and down. And again, you don't have to do these, with extreme, but that's a really good, easy cardio workout that you can do. Just do sets of 5 jumping squats at a time, rest for a little bit. You will get your heart rate up. I mean, for me, even like I'm pretty fit, right? I train all the time. I do these kinds of exercises. Side crunches are another one. Bicycles, where you're laying on your back and you're pulling your knee up and then you're pulling your elbow to touch the opposite knee. Those are called bicycles. Those work really well, both for core and can also get your cardio and your heart rate up. The idea is like, I just think about like, how do I generate heat in my body? Am I feeling heat? Am I feeling a little bit warm? Am I starting to sweat? Is my heart rate up? Am I breathing? Those little exercises really do add up. And you can do them from anywhere. And even though it's late, your flight was late, you're checking in your hotel, it's 10:30 at night, you've got an 8 o'clock meeting. You can take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to do something at night. It'll help you sleep better, or first thing in the morning to get yourself reset, to get oxygen moving into your brain. If you're in a situation where it's safe and there's good, easy routes to do a run walk, I did 5 slow miles last night. I was like running at a 9.5 minute, almost a 10-minute pace, which is pretty slow for me. I can run, 7.5 minute pace for 10 miles if I want to, but just jogging lightly, run walks, they work great. Same idea. You're just getting your heart rate up. So like exercise every day is huge for me, and especially when you're traveling. So that's my fourth tip here. And the first one, the exercise area. The second one related to this is buy and pack some good workout gear. I think it makes a big difference when you have gear. Like I have a couple of t-shirts, not t-shirts, but they're like the synthetic workout shirts that I bought years ago from REI before I was doing a long race. And the company brand is called Outdoor Research, and it's super lightweight, super lightweight, dries very quickly. And I can pack two of these and they fit when I roll them up. I can fit two of these inside of one shoe in my suitcase. So if I have my running shoes, I can take two of these t-shirts, roll them up, fit them into a shoe. So they take up no space. And then the other shoe, I'll put my socks and my running shorts. So like literally two shoes and everything fits inside of there. Can be an easy way. And if you buy good gear, it will motivate you. I love putting on these shirts. They're so comfortable and they're so easy to wear and they're so lightweight and they're so easy to take care of. Because then in my hotel room, when I get back, if they need to be washed, I just throw them in the sink, bring them out, and by the morning they're dry because of the material. So buy good workout gear. I'll pack my running backpack, even though I'm not going on super long runs. But it's got a couple of places, holsters for my water bottles. I can throw my stuff in the back pouch. It could be my wallet, my hotel key, my phone, any other, an extra shirt, those kinds of things, just in case I need it. Because if I do get lost, I always want to have my phone in case I need to get an Uber or Lyft to make sure I get home. Always bring a credit card in case I need to buy something while I'm out. Always have an ID with me in case something were to happen. Like little simple stuff just to take those little extra precautions. I don't carry all that stuff around if I'm doing a 7-mile run around my neighborhood. But if I'm out in a new place, especially across the pond here in London, it's a safe place, but you just never know. And so having that stuff, just packing something like that. And if you don't have like a running pack, you can get a waistband that usually has these little pockets that fit a phone. They fit your ID, they'll fit your hotel key. You can throw some credit cards in there in case you need a little bit of cash. Those are really easy to carry, really small. And also good to have just for security purposes because it's right there around your body. So buy good workout gear, pack that with you, and just make it available. Make it easy. I have two of these t-shirts, and I always use these same two whenever I travel. Keep them in your travel bag, right? Have a couple sets. So when you travel, just inside of your travel bag, you have your workout gear. If you're traveling a lot, it makes sense to do that so you never forget and you always have that gear ready. And thirdly, use some easy tech that will help motivate you. So there's Strava. If you're not a member of Strava, it's free. I love using Strava, not just because it tracks my miles, but especially when I'm in a new place. And if I'm in a place like London, I will track everything. I'll track my walk to and from the office. I tracked my walk to and from dinner last night. I love seeing myself on a map and seeing what neighborhoods I might have visited or going back later and seeing what landmarks, because, if I'm running through a new city or a new town, especially a place like London where there's a historic site every block, time to look at every single placard or even know what those things are. So if I've got some time, I might go back and look at a map and they're like, oh, okay, well, that building was, a cathedral that was built in the 1600s. So that building was St. Paul's Cathedral. I didn't know that. I didn't realize that when I was running by this huge, enormous, beautiful cathedral. So, or that was a castle that was built during Roman times. Like, wow, that's pretty cool. So it's kind of fun to be able to track that. And also, a simple wrist device like a Garmin will also track your steps a lot of times. So, there's that old 10,000 steps per day. And I think there's something to that. I mean, that doesn't count as exercise. Walking 10,000 steps isn't exercise, but it is helpful to just see that, wow, okay, I'm walking a lot. I'm in New York or Chicago, or in my case, London. And it will help you want to do more activity when you're tracking yourself. Because maybe at the end of the day with your Garmin, you're at 5,000 steps and you want to get to 6,000, or you're at 8,000 steps and you want to get to 10,000. You might decide to take a few extra blocks, take that long route from the office back to your hotel. And again, that extra activity will help you sleep better. It's better for fitness. It will help you want to eat better and take care of yourself instead of going back to your hotel room, getting room service and ordering a glass of wine or a bottle of beer, right? So another great travel tip is using All Trails. So ALL Trails. Again, it's a web app and also a mobile app. Great free version. And so if you're going to a new town or a new city and you do like to run or jog or hike, even inside of big cities like London, there's all kinds of trails and routes that people will post and recommend. So I love just looking at, like, before I came to London, I was looking for like a 6 or 7 mile route, and easy to find a couple routes where you're just running down the river and then taking a right around a bridge and then just knowing, okay, that's how I can get 6 miles in. Or, hey, here's a way to get from where I'm at to Hyde Park in a scenic way, do a lap around Hyde Park and then come back. So All Trails is really good for that, as well as Strava, because Strava will also have routes of people that you can look up. So those are my 3 exercise tips. Number 1, make sure you exercise every day, even if it's something small. Get your body heat up, get your endorphins flowing, get your heart rate up. Number 2, buy and pack really good, nice workout gear. And number 3, use some of these basic tech tools, Garmin, All Trails, Strava, to track your mileage, track your steps, track your activity. All right, last set of travel tips for me. I just mentioned briefly, let's talk about diet, exercise, and how that dovetails into diet, food, and drink. So some of these are pretty basic, but things that have worked really well for me. Number 1, hydrate. People say bring a water bottle, make sure you're drinking lots of water. And yes, drink a lot of water. And I also pack what are called elements, LMNT, element packets. These are little sodium, potassium packets, which I will drink. It's like 1,000 milligrams of this and put it into a nice big bottle of water. Number 1, it makes the water taste better because it's flavored, citrus and lime and grapefruit and those kinds of things. There's no calories in it. But number 2, part of hydration is making sure there's enough sodium content in your body, enough potassium. Those sorts of minerals are really, really critical. And so just drinking one of those bottles of water with the element, I think really helps me stay better, like improves my hydration. So I'm not just drinking water, but I'm also getting the minerals that I need. So that's number 1, is hydrate and use something like Element. Number 2, I travel with coffee. I travel with instant coffee. I find hotel coffee, as you probably find, is pretty horrible. It's more like coffee flavored water. And so I travel either with Starbucks via packets, where you can go to the grocery store and get them in like packs of, I think it's sold like as a dozen. Really easy instant coffee. So I joke that I put coffee in my coffee. So the hotel coffee makers or the hotel lobby coffee, or because I get off really early, like today, right? There's no coffee shops open where I can go get a coffee at 2:30 in the morning. So just bringing coffee packets allows me to get some caffeine and coffee first thing in the morning when I want to, and make sure that the coffee I'm drinking actually tastes like coffee. So that's a big travel tip. I was traveling with my family before I headed over here to London. And so we were downstairs in the hotel where we were staying, and they brought coffee that was made and brewed. And I had a little bottle of instant coffee that I put some instant coffee into the coffee that they brewed because it just wasn't strong enough for me. And so I bring coffee and travel with coffee so I can put coffee in my coffee. And the third thing is do little stuff like I pack food to bring with. I usually pack a couple of cans of tuna fish that you can just pop open. You can rip open the cover. You don't need a can opener. I pack a plastic fork or a plastic spoon. I just keep it in my backpack. I'll pack protein bars, a handful, like a half a dozen of those, throw them in my backpack. I also pack like a big bag of nuts. I'll go to Trader Joe's and get a pack of salted almonds, roasted almonds or something like that. Really high in calories. So you got to be careful with those, but also really good as a meal replacement. So, you're traveling late, your flight is late. You're supposed to land at 7:30 p.m., but for whatever reason, you're delayed on the tarmac. Your flight doesn't get in until 10:30. Now you're getting in your hotel. It's, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night, and you haven't really had any food. This is where having some protein bars, having some nuts, and also one of the things I'll do when I'm staying in hotels, a lot of times in the lobby, they'll have fruit. They'll have, particularly apples travel really, really well. So I'm unabashed about grabbing 2 or 3 apples and throwing in my backpack for later, because those are a great snack during the day. If I need something in between meetings, they're also, again, helpful as a travel meal replacement. Other things that can work really well are bone broth. You can get bone broth packets. Again, not high in calories, but can serve as a pretty decent sort of flavored meal replacement. So there have been times where I get to a hotel and I'll go to their snack. They have a little pantry or snack area. I'll see if they have anything like a cup of noodles, something like that. So that plus some nuts, plus a protein bar, plus some beef broth, and I'm like, okay, that's my dinner. And it's a workaround, but I found that it's key to travel survival. So I'll pack some food, grab some fruit from the hotels, and make sure that I've always got some calories with me because I do get hungry, and I'm sure you do too. So those are my 3 travel tips on food. So hydrate, travel with coffee, and pack and grab your food. So that's it. Those are 9 travel tips under the guise of go farther to help you do more when you're on the road, to help you be happy. Travel can be tough when you're away from your family. It can be frustrating when you get a lot of things out of your control. And you want to surprise yourself. So be in a situation where you can be maximally efficient, be optimal with the time. Feel like some of the travel delays weren't as frustrating because you had some food, because you got a little extra rest, because you thought about this gift of time, those sorts of things. And I think all of those will help your mindset to, in fact, go farther. All right, that's it for now. We'll catch you next time. Thanks for listening.